Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best settings for Marvel Rivals in Season 1 to help you step up your game. There's some settings that are specific to certain heroes which I'll be covering in this video, but also general settings that help you get the most out of Marvel Rivals. So I guess the first one to talk about is going into our display settings. So I did test between going with borderless window and full screen. One really nice thing about full screen is this game doesn't close down if you alt tab to anything else, so you can comfortably go into full screen here. However, borderless window doesn't take a huge hit. I personally prefer going borderless window. So between the two of these, pick the one you prefer. I'm just going to keep it borderless window for my testing because I didn't really notice a large hit from going from full screen. But if you really want to go min-max this, full screen's the way to go. And for everything else here, it's going to depend on your monitors, but anti-aliasing here is going to depend heavily on your graphics card. So depending on what you got, I got an NVIDIA graphics card myself, but I would go with the one that works obviously the best with your graphics card. And as for the super resolution mode, I go ultra quality, but even quality works well. I found that if you go below this and even into performance, things start to get a little bit fuzzier. So I personally just like going with the quality preset. You can go performance if you want to really get a bit better performance, but for my testing, I think the quality makes the models look a little bit better and makes it easier to distinguish whenever there's a lot going on screen. As for super resolution sharpening, this is going to be another one that's entirely dependent on you. I like to always crank these out. It gives you better sharpness. So again, when you're looking at enemies from far away, it's going to help out with distinguishing between your team and the enemy. So if you need to heal, you'll be able to see who you can heal a little bit more clearly. But again, this isn't a super important one. It's not going to make a massive difference, even going to 0% versus 100. It's not that different. Frame generation. This is an interesting one. I love frame generation. However, it does double your latency if you're playing this. So if you want to have the most competitive edge, you will likely want to just shut this off. I actually don't notice it. Like I lose like not a lot of frames here, like about 15 or so. So it's not really a major change in terms of Marvel Rivals. So you can comfortably turn this off if you want to give yourself the most competitive edge, because it will reduce the latency time whenever you're doing your shots. So when it comes to hitting your shots with someone like Hela, which is heavily dependent on getting the shots on exactly when you see the enemy, this can be a really useful setting to change because you'll be able to hit your shots a little bit more frequently. So that is a big benefit there of going with that, is you'll be able to just aim a little bit more freely and not have to worry about latency. So turning off frame generation, I've noticed a big difference, so go with that. Now for low latency mode, you can just leave this as NVIDIA. If you got a NVIDIA graphics card, you can adjust your brightness to however you prefer. I like to play my games a little bit brighter than normal. You can also put on a show FPS, and some people actually, depending on how high your frame rate is, it might be better. Typically from season 0, there was issues with going with a low frame rate, but it seems like in season 1, there's issues with very high frame rates. So even setting an FPS cap at like 120 or 60 can work. Showing FPS is nice to be able to see where you're at, and the network stats will show your ping. So those two you can toggle on. It's not necessary, and it might clog up the screen a little bit much if you have it on, because when you put them on, you're going to see them both here. You can see there on the right hand side of the screen. So that might be a little bit ugly for some people, and they might just want that removed. So you can just comfortably take that off that way. VSync, only turn this on if your monitor is below 60 frames per second. Otherwise, or if your monitor is 60 frames per second, or if you have issues. Otherwise, I would just leave that off. Now, as for graphics, I'm playing it right now. This is what Ultra looks like. I actually think it's a little bit better to play on low. And actually what's nice about this is even if you put them onto low graphics, you're not going to notice a huge change in terms of the graphics. Like the shadows and everything are going to be a little bit different. But you can see here, the shadows are off right now. So to have the best competitive edge, it's best to actually turn your settings down to low. But there's one important one, the shadow detail. So this can actually, you can put this all the way back up to high or ultra. With the shadow detail, you can see there, you can see a shadow from your character. This may not seem like a lot, but sometimes if you're playing, you can see a character from far away just by their shadow. So that can actually give you a huge edge. So that's why I recommend having the shadows turned on. You can turn everything else off, but having the shadows on allows you to see enemies from a bit further away or in around corners and things like that. However, the frames per second drop is not super drastic. I'm running about 160 frames per second right now on low settings, and I had about 110 at ultra settings. So again, it's entirely dependent on how you feel most comfortable, but putting them all to low and shadows on high works very well. As for the audio, I just go with this mix here. So master, I have it down a little bit, sound effect volume and in-game voice volume being the highest. it's personal preference really for the most part. Voice chat off usually is the best in games like this, unless you want to hear some very, very bad words. Text chat is more than fine. In the combat mix, I just leave it as is. Now for the keyboard, I actually like the horizontal vertical sensitivity down a little bit. Now another thing about Marvel Rivals is your horizontal sensitivity is much faster, like turning around is much faster than your vertical sensitivity. So if you're looking up to get at an Iron Man, it might actually be better to turn up your vertical sensitivity a little bit. If you're comfortable with it, I put mine down because I run my mouse at a very high DPI. I'm running around 3200 DPI. So I like to put this down just a little bit, just to fine tune my aim a little bit better. So I find that this works great for myself because, yeah, I don't know, it's just personal preference really when it comes down to it, but sensitivity at 3. And then when it comes to the cursors and the reticules and crosshairs, I have a video on that, which I'll put in the description so that, or I'll put it in the comments pinned so you can see what works best. Personally, I just like the cross, but it depends. I have different ones for different heroes. Some heroes I prefer just the regular one. Now, when it comes to everything else here, this is personal preference, but I do have some changes when it comes to different heroes. So for example, Bruce Banner, this is a big one. Whenever you go to Bruce here, it's important to look and make sure that you have the hold to activate Incredible Leap turned off. What's important about this is whenever you have this on, it actually will change Bruce quite a lot. So whenever you go into Hulk form, you won't have to press and hold spacebar to get that bar to build up. You can just press space once, and then you can get back in, press the spacebar again, it'll continue charging, you get in, get out, get your knockout. This is a huge game changer for Bruce, so I highly recommend going with that. Also, another thing I just forgot to mention is for all heroes, you want to turn mouse acceleration off. They finally have an option for this in Season 0. You actually had to enter some code into an area in the game. Turn this off, it'll make a huge difference. There's also another thing you have to do if you're playing on PC, if you want to turn off mouse acceleration. You actually have to go into your Bluetooth settings for your mouse. This is on Windows 11, so it may be a little bit different for you, but you're going to go under your additional mouse settings here, and then once you have that, you're going to go under your pointer options and turn off enhanced pointer precision. So whenever this is active, you have enhanced, this is going to basically put mouse acceleration in every single game, so you definitely want to have that turned off to maximize your potential when it comes to this game. Mouse smoothing, basically what it does is whenever you're playing, if you were to aim at somewheres and change your direction, let's say you're aiming at one here and you got your shots off, you took it out, and then you go to move to the other target, with mouse acceleration, it'll actually change how your mouse moves, and with it like this, it's going to move just naturally as you normally would. So I recommend always having that turned off. I just find that it works the best that way. So turn off mouse acceleration if you like it, leave it on, but most people don't, I'll be honest. Now, for some other heroes other than Bruce Banner, I like personally to change Doctor Strange's abilities around just a little bit. So I put his Doctor Strange's melee on F, so it's right beside my attack bar. The reason being, Doctor Strange actually benefits from being able to attack with a melee attack in between his animations, so you can go with a normal attack there, follow it up with a melee attack, and this will just help boost up your overall damage. So I highly recommend doing that because the damage output that you can get from that is much better. So it's just a little bit quicker than hitting the V on my keyboard. I only have this done for this hero because others like Groot, actually Groot uses his wall to take down his walls using F, so I don't like to have that on Groot. But for Doctor Strange, I just found it a little bit easier to put his attack there, just because you're going to want to get in the habit of using your attack often as Doctor Strange. So he's one that I typically change. Just I don't see anyone else doing it, just my own personal preference. Another one, Squirrel Girl. I just like to have Squirrel, if you're playing a Squirrel Girl, her default cursor I find better than any of the other cursors. I just feel like this one works well. So you see previously I had the green cursor. For Squirrel Girl, I just changed to that because I find that works best for me. But again, it's all up to your own personal preference. Another one for Venom and Spider-Man, this is a big one, is actually going and turning off Easy Swing. And you can turn off the hold to swing too. But basically what Easy Swing does is, so whenever you're playing as Venom, normally when you swing, it's going to attach to something up high and help you swing. But with this mode, you can actually do it so that whenever you swing, you can actually swing towards something that's just right in front of you. You can also use this to swing yourself forward a little bit quicker, so you can actually use this downwards and get in close to fight someone. I think that works best personally myself, but again, some people do prefer the Easy Swing. It just, you gotta remember, if you're gonna peel, you have to actually swing up high to be able to pull off the swing. But turning this setting on is nice too, because you can actually, use yourself to dive in and get an attack off pretty easily. So you can use that to close the gap and then get in and start attacking. So that can be nice, but easy swing may work better for some other people. This same thing does apply to Spider-Man, but I find it a little bit different for Spider-Man. So yeah, you can go with the easy swing or you can go with that. It's entirely your choice, but I find that the easy swing turned off works best for me. So that's that for different heroes and their different abilities. So another one you can change is actually changing Thor's hammer spin to his right mouse button, because I find the hammer spin being his most effective ability. It's nice to be able to use that really quickly. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the best settings for season 1 in Marvel Rivals. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.